Kaeberlein has quite a story to tell. And as much as it's a difficult story, I'm sure, for her to share, at the same time, this is a gal who's got courage beyond what I could ever muster to be able to go out here and be part of the miracle that can actually shift the crazy suicide epidemic that we are seeing in this country and perhaps even around the world. So, welcome, Stephanie. We're so happy to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Well, and everybody knows now that next Saturday is the big Ignite the Spark to Eradicate Suicide event. And, we were so fortunate that when we first started talking about this event with folks, that it was just these miracle little connections that all happened that just kind of brought you right into our space. And it's been such a delight to get to know you. Again, I know you've got a difficult story to tell, but are you willing to share it this evening?
Absolutely. So, my name is Stephanie Kaeberlein. I lost my husband to suicide in May of 2022. Our story is just incredibly tragic, just like everybody else's, I'm sure. I have two teenagers. At the time, my daughter Madeline was 15 and my son Jack was 18. My husband Chris took his life in our house with me and my daughter home. It would have been the day before what would have been our 21st wedding anniversary and 3 weeks before my son's high school graduation. I didn't see it coming. In fact, he and I went for a walk together with the dog, something we did every day, 30 minutes before he died. So it was, I tell people that it felt like my life all of a sudden was 1,000 puzzle pieces all over the ground, and I had no idea what the picture was even supposed to look like. The early days and weeks and months following the loss of him are a blur, and it was just I had to learn very quickly how to become comfortable in the chaos. We are still to some degree figuring out different levels of chaos, but we are all healing, my two children and I, in all different ways, but we've come a long ways in the 2 years since Chris has been gone. As part of my healing journey, I would say, well, let me back up a little bit. My background, my career background is I'm an interior designer. I have been in the field of interior design for more than 20 years. And I would say over the past 10 years, I have focused on workplace design. So I do commercial design, specializing in health and wellness and how I design spaces for my clients. That actually started back in 2014 when I had my own health crisis. It was a fluke crisis that put me in the hospital and I woke up on full life support. But I was able to recover from that within a matter of about a week when the doctors were all telling me I was going to be there 3 to 4 weeks. And I totally believe that it was because of health and wellness that I was doing for myself at the time, as far as fitness and what I was doing nutritionally and mindset and my faith. So I, as a personal, just the way that I do life, I incorporate health and wellness and how I design for my clients, but also with my own self. So my background is commercial interior design. My husband's background was he was an agile coach. So he did a lot of technology stuff, but he believed also, like I did, in the power of personal development and health and wellness. And so we carried that over in our family life and everything else. So when Chris died, in order to kind of move on through my healing journey, we live on a 20-acre property. It's a farm homestead property. It's a historic property, has a pond, fields, surrounded by nature. Probably about 4 months after Chris died, I decided that I wanted to do something to honor his legacy in a healthy way. And so I decided I was going to start a nonprofit. I've named it Liberty Oaks. That's actually what Chris called our Wi-Fi. And we've created Liberty Oaks as a nonprofit, giving back to children and teens, but we are going to be opening up the property to offer classes and workshops to teach people everything around health and wellness, everything from team building and leadership to communication to financial health and wellness to physical health and wellness. We're going to bring out local providers to teach these classes and workshops in small group settings. And we're going to utilize really the rustic, serene nature environment that's out here as a setting and background for these things to happen, because I truly believe that in-person connection and connection with nature is very critical to the state of well-being and just finding your way in today's chaotic world.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And that's such a beautiful vision, and it's something that's so needed. I mean, everywhere we go, we're looking, for places where either a healing center like what you're describing, or we're looking to also find places where micro communities can be built. And it sounded like you might even have thought about doing something like that somewhere down the line. Is that a possibility?
It is, and I truly believe that connection and community is so important. And one of the things that we're considering, that everything's evolving right now with our mission and what we're actually going to be doing as far as the site. But one of the things that we've talked about is possibly putting out, tiny houses or some other types of buildings for teams to come out and meet. At some point, we may actually have a guest house on site for people to be able to stay here. One of the first projects that we are actually embarking on right now, that we are partnering with a local psychiatrist named Natasha Donnelly, who has a clinic here in Wake Forest. We are doing a therapeutic healing garden project that we're going to be starting in the spring, which will also incorporate a flower garden at some point. And future goals down the line will be to actually have a flower farm as part of the site plan for Liberty Oaks, where we would actually sell some of the flowers. People will be able to take them home with them as part of the therapeutic healing garden experience.
Wow. So many possibilities, and I know how challenging it is when you have a vision, but you know that it probably is going to evolve over time. You start, you got to stick a stake in the ground somewhere, but then
Absolutely.
It'll change. It'll change. Then it'll change again.
It will. It will
change again.
Evolve, I like to call it.
Okay.
That's how we've seen things go. And you mentioned your faith. I mean, what kind of role has your faith played in all of this? I mean, are you one of those people who wake up in the middle of the night with some idea that you feel compelled to work with? I mean, how has this worked for you?
My faith has been my guiding light and honestly my solace in all of this. It's very easy as a widow. My husband was the breadwinner in our family, and my future is very unknown at this point. All the dreams that he and I had together, obviously now are gone. So I'm having to recreate and transform my own life and my future. And there is an incredible amount of trust in my faith that I've had to really draw on, especially in those middle of the night panic attacks that I'd had early on. Finding that sense of even just personal safety in the early months, and even the first year and a half was difficult. And drawing on my faith is what comforted me. So, and I continue to draw on that today. There's a lot of promise in God's word. And so when I feel like I'm lost, or I can't hear the whispers of, what to do next as far as next steps. This summer in particular, I've taken some steps back, and I've really just kind of been quiet, and I've been listening, and I've just kind of surrendered to God to just kind of tell me what comes next. And sure enough, I feel like He is guiding my steps.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, the good news is, when you have that faith, you're never really alone. And
No.
sometimes it may still feel that way, but you never really are. And I just have so much respect for, the courage that you're putting forward in all of this, because yeah, it's got to be big. But I was curious about one piece, because, so many of the people that we talk to about the whole issue of suicide, they still really think that it's totally connected to people who have this long-term mental health battle going on. And I'm kind of under the impression that's not what your husband's story was about. I mean, was there any clues at all that came your way? You sounded like you were kind of taken by surprise, and I keep hearing from other sides of the fence a lot more people feeling that way. What
So, yeah, I basically what happened, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that come along with suicide, and a lot of mysteries. What I know for sure is that my family had the Delta variant of COVID, which would have been in October of 2021. So we all got pretty sick, and my husband and my daughter ended up with what's now considered or called long COVID. They had symptoms of high anxiety, gastrointestinal, memory issues, sleep disruption, all kinds of things going on. So going into 2022, right before my husband died, my daughter was in crisis with, with after effects from being sick. What I didn't realize at the time was that my husband was too. And he actually had lost his job probably about a month or so before he died. He got hired by a previous employer, and was so excited about going back to work with his old company. They were thrilled to have him back. As a condition of going back to work for this company, though, even though he was going to be 100% remote, never going to have to leave the house, never have to travel, because this company held federal contracts, they required 100% proof of COVID vaccination. So when my husband got vaccinated, it was about a couple days after he got his second shot that, and I was only able to piece everything together months after he died. It was a couple days after he got his second shot, we started noticing real personality changes. So it was basically a 3-week period between the time he got his second shot and the time that he died. His mental health state, looking back on it now, deteriorated and declined extremely rapidly. I can't even begin to describe it. It was like a man that I didn't even know. So when, in the days before he died, I thought he was just having a bad day, but I didn't realize that where he was and how rapidly he was declining. I know in my own heart that the man who died that day was not my husband. I don't know how else to describe it other than I think he had a psychotic break.
Wow. Goodness gracious.
It's sad.
It is. And there's just so many people that we've run into all over central North Carolina who have just been through, similar stories. And it's interesting because, again, there's a book that I've been reading that was actually written by a psychologist he was in the Air Force. And he says that, the stories that people tell about, oh, it's the people with the long mental health illnesses that are the most susceptible. He didn't see that in the military, active or with veterans. So it was, just there's just so many things that we don't know that we don't know. And
My life
that's
personally has been touched by several people here in the Wake Forest area who have also lost their husbands to suicide and similar conditions. So I wonder too sometimes, what I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's limited anymore to longstanding mental health. I think honestly, I've started thinking about it in terms of, overall health, and really there is a huge link between your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, all of it together.
yes.
So I think we need to start thinking about it in terms of what does your comprehensive health picture look like? How are you really taking care of yourself as far as your self-care? Where are you with your mindset and your spirituality and your emotional health? And, are you dealing with things in authentic ways and making yourself vulnerable when you need to be vulnerable? Communicating your needs, all those things play into, and what are you putting into your body? Are you exercising? Are you moving every day? There's just so much.
There is, and it's like there's this perfect storm. I mean, that's part
Yeah,
of what we're trying to help people understand with the whole Ignite the Spark event is, society is playing a huge role in this. And
absolutely.
we have the ability to be part of the miracle that shifts this whole mess. But everybody's got to play a role. Whether you're talking about our young people getting caught up in whether it's cyberbullying or just hanging their whole self-worth on how many likes they get on TikTok or something. I
Absolutely.
mean, those are societal things that we all can get involved in trying to change. And just so many young people who are looking out here at all the anger and the fighting and the divisiveness and the battles, they feel like they're in a war zone. A lot of our young people are starting to show symptoms of PTSD just because they look out here and feel like it's a war zone. So,
And
why
we
and,
are,
and
we need to really start valuing in-person connection again. Um,
yes, yes.
I experience this with my clients in workplace design, finding the balance between remote work and in person, in the office. Um, there is an energy and a value to actually being in person, whether it's working together or just connecting with one another in real ways. We have to teach our kids the value of that. Some stuff can be done online, there are video games and all that, and in limited ways, but there's also, it is very different being in person and experiencing things in real time, in real ways with one another. So that's one of the reasons, and I'm so compelled to have Liberty Oaks be an in-person experience where people can come out and connect with one another because, shared experiences and, social connections and things like that. That's something that, has real meaning when you're in person with one another.
It does. It does. And we recognize, and I'm sure it's very glaring to you as well. I mean, the pandemic did not do any favors to our younger generations.
No,
So many of them, because they were not allowed to socialize, there's many of them that if they're not staring at this, they don't know how to communicate with somebody. And, communication, oh my goodness. I mean, the moderator we're going to have on our panel discussion that you're going to be part of next Saturday, he actually made me cry after he interviewed me, and it was only because he's such a listener. We crave that kind of communication where we feel like somebody has listened to you and truly heard you. And I'll never forget that. The first time he interviewed me, I mean, he took such notes and he listened so closely. And then he turned around and wrote an article based on what I said. And I did. I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, he really was listening. And that's so rare in our society today.
And
It's
isn't it
not.
amazing that, that used to be so commonplace and now it feels so rare?
It does, it does. I have a friend who has written a whole line of books on North Carolina nostalgia, and it was all based on, her grandfather's country store, the books that she wrote were all under the umbrella of "Let's set a spell at the country store," and that's where people would come, and they would gather, and they would tell stories, and they would share what was going on, and, there was that real connection, and people wanted to help each other. And, they did things for each other when they needed. We have to look to, last year we were in Ohio and we were right next to where there was a huge community of Amish people. And the Amish, they go out and they do barn raising to help each other, right? I mean, they do those kinds of things, but it's so rare and it's so in such pockets. And we've got to change that. We can change that. I mean, there are some young people that we've run into who are actually kind of angry at us, our generations, going, why did you let the world get this way? It's a good question, don't you think?
It is a good
It
question.
is.
It is.
And
And
having a tight, I would say, social friend connection circle has been pivotal for me in my healing and my grief. I have about 5 or 6 close women friends that right here in my local area who I call on and draw on for all different things. And whether it's talking about work related stuff or kid related stuff or, house related stuff, I have somebody to go to for each one of those things. But then I also have an extended network of, friends who are there for me in all different ways if I need help with, things out at the property or, if I just need advice on something, and I think that is so important. And I'm constantly talking to my kids about the value in that too, in life and in, building their career, but also in finding happiness long term, because, there's a new happiness study that has come out that talks about the longevity and its relationship to how connected you are in your relationships. The quality of your life is based on the quality of your relationships, and it actually has a direct link to your longevity.
wow, wow. I believe that. Well, there's also been studies that people who belong to like a church community and things of that nature, they tend to have a longer life, and a higher satisfaction rating on their life as well. So absolutely, we've got to get more connected again. And we've got interesting folks all across the country that are kind of following this story of what we've got going on and about this event. So you never know who might hear what's going on here. So I'm just curious. I mean, how can people help you at this point in time? Are there some specific needs that you have that if somebody heard about it, who knows? They might have an answer for you.
Well, my immediate goal is in the spring of 2025, 25, yeah. um, we are going to start opening up the property and teaching classes and workshops out here. We've been testing some small events out here. We're going to actually start having corporate groups out here. We're also going to be kicking off our therapeutic healing garden project, as I mentioned. So the best ways that people can help right now, in tangible, real ways, are you can make a financial donation on our website. That money will go towards the Therapeutic Healing Garden Project, which will be open for the community. It's going to have sensory pathways. It'll be different colors throughout the garden. It'll have a water feature. We haven't planned it yet, but these are all things that are on kind of our wish list. And so there's that. And then we also have needs for volunteers. If anyone's in the local area and wants to come out and help, whether it's, repairs to different parts of the site, whether it's mowing, whether it's, helping to get things going as far as landscaping and site setups for these events. We always have a need for volunteers. We have a couple of board members who are rotating off the board next year. So we have a need for board members, particularly in the areas of like finance and fundraising, people who want to connect and get us out there as far as marketing and grant writing, things like that. So there's all kinds of ways that you can help with Liberty Oaks, but we are looking at 2025 as being our big year to kind of start getting out there and getting presence in the community and opening up to the community.
Awesome. Awesome. And I bet you got a question.
Well, yes, I do. Wanted to. Well, first of all, how can people get hold of you in Liberty Oaks?
Best way to find me is visit our website, libertyoaksnc.com. Liberty Oaks NC is in North Carolina.com. There's there should be a page on there where you can do a call with me if you want to connect with me directly and talk. I believe my contact information is on there as well. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook.
Okay. Have you got a schedule for next spring? These classes?
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Okay. So people want to know about that.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm assuming there will be a page on your website as those things roll out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, and we're excited to have you with us this Saturday here in Raleigh. 10
I'm excited too.
we
It's gonna
have
be a great event.
we have no idea what to expect. There's been a lot of interest, and we'll just see who comes on out. And again, you get to tell your story some more, I'm sure. And who knows, there could be some amazing things that happen. We're visualizing that everybody who's there somehow gets something that they need to be able to advance the solutions that we really need out here to disrupt this suicide. It is an epidemic. It truly is.
We got to stop sweeping it under the rug. That's for sure.
Yes, we got to normalize the conversation. And, that, again, I hold you in deep respect that you've been willing to come out and talk about these things, because we've met a lot of people who have been touched, but very few who are willing to talk. And, it's a rare situation. So I thank you for being part of the miracle that will shift this epidemic.
Definitely.
We're glad to know you. We're glad to have you on our show. So
well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So everybody, remember, you can find out all about this event. ignitethespark.co is our main website. And you can find out about, we've got our panel discussion, we've got a wellness experience, and we've got Spark at the Park, where we're inviting people to come out from 4:30 to 6:30 at Dorothea Dix Park, be part of a prayer vigil and visioning exercise to help bring the energy together and make it clear that we're looking for the resources, the people, all the things that are needed to be able to create these new solutions, because it's totally unacceptable how many people we're losing at this time. And every single person watching this has the ability to be part of the solution. Thank you all for being here with us this week. Yes. Thank you, Stephanie. We look forward to seeing you again on Saturday.
I do too. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Take care.